Assalamu alaikum. That is, may God's peace be upon you. Welcome back to the Power of Educating Our Own. This is a show facilitated by the Clara Mohammed Schools Network. We are a network of approximately 20 schools. Those schools are full-time, weekend, or strong end, right? Because we use that terminology as well. And virtual schools. And we are happy to have you back with us. I am Sister Marsha Nivens Muhammad, and I'm joined with my co-host.
I am Quran Shakir, and we're very excited about tonight's program and to have you here with us, ready to celebrate our month, our time on the power of educating our own.
Yes, yes, yes. And so if you've been with us for the month thus far, you will know that we have been highlighting history, right? Documenting our history, knowing our story, making sure that we record those occurrences in our personal lives and our community life that allows us to preserve what it is that we experience, the impact that we make in the world. And so tonight is going to be along those lines as well. And we have an awesome guest with us. And I'm not going to give too many details about the sister because I do want her to tell us who she is and what she does. But tonight we have Sister Zarina Alameen with us, and I'm going to bring her in. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Wa alaikum assalam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
And
so
welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you all.
Good. And so we're excited to have you because you do some really, really impactful work as it relates to historical preservation. And so tell us who you are, tell our listening audience who you are, what you do, and I'm sure they're going to get the memo of why it's impactful. So that part we'll leave out, right? We'll let them figure that part out. But who you are and what you do.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Zarina Alameen. I am a cultural anthropologist from Detroit, Michigan. And professionally, for coming up on 2 decades now, I have been helping people to self-publish their books. So that is, I help people organize the ideas in their mind and get them down onto paper. And over the last several months, we have launched a new initiative called the Legacy Keepers. And that is centered around capturing the knowledge, the skills, the wisdom, the experiences of our elders while we still can. You know, we recognize that each of us have a gift in today, and we want to make sure that we preserve what we can while we are given that gift. The other side of me on the opposite, I won't say opposite side of publishing, but a big part of my life also centers around travel. And annually, I organize anthropological experiences for women to go across the globe to experience the different cultures that God has created, to experience the different way that we do this thing called being human. So we've taken groups to Japan, Indonesia, Morocco, Turkey, Senegal, and that's something I do kind of more for fun, if you will. But it does inform my work with publishing because we're looking at culture and we're looking at ways that people preserve their cultures across the globe, right? And so that helps us to inform here how we're going to preserve our culture and make sure that our knowledge is here for centuries to come. Inshallah.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot. So we're gonna dissect that, right? And we're gonna delve deeper into it. And before we do that, for those of you who are watching, please feel free to put your name in the comment section. Let us know where you're watching from. So that we can shout you out. And of course, if you ever have any questions that you'd like us to ask on the show, feel free to drop them in the comment section. Okay, so publishing, travel, and you're like, wait, so I kind of do that just as for fun. And I'm like, girl, you taking people around the country. What you mean? I mean, yes, that's fun, but that's like bigger than like, oh, I just do that for fun.
I know. I got started in travel. Well, God put it in me, period, right? To explore. There are some people where all of us have things that a lot of places on our hearts, right? Things that are just naturally kind of a default state or a goal or a desire that He places within us. And for me, travel and culture and experience in different ways that people are human, like, is just a natural part of my curiosity of the world. So I was kind of traveling. And then when I would come back home, which is Detroit. Detroit is my home base. When I would come back home, like some of my aunties and such would be like, "Oh, I've always wanted to travel. I wish that I had traveled. I waited for retirement, but then my health wasn't the same, and so I wasn't able to travel the way I thought I was going to be able to, and such." And so I started thinking about, okay, how can I help more women to travel? Because there was so much that I got out of it. It wasn't just taking pretty pictures or just seeing interesting sights. Like, I literally saw myself evolve as a human being, as a woman, and then later as a mother. So I said, okay, I can probably utilize what I know, because travel kind of comes naturally to me. I can help organize some things for other women so they don't have to worry about the stress of where are we going to stay, what are we going to do, is it safe, where are we going to eat, all of those things. I take care of all of that, and they get to just come and experience. So
Nice. So, okay, so let's talk about the publishing,
yes.
right? We'll go back to we'll go to the publishing, and we may come back to the trips because that's just super cool, right? So the publishing, right? Um, how did you get started doing it, and tell us about like some of the journey in helping other people do it and what that's like.
Yeah. I got started in publishing after doing my master's in anthropology. So, as you all know, when you're doing some type of higher education, you have to either produce a thesis or a dissertation or something. And I was doing my research in anthropology. And at that time, my study was around singlehood and the search for love in the Muslim community. So, I had done this study, right? Like qualitative research around singlehood and people trying to get married and such within the community. And when I finished, because I was active in the community, people were asking for my results. They were like, "Yo, Z, like, what happened with that study? What'd you get? What'd you get?" And I was like, "I wrote this all up. You can go read the thesis, right?" And they were like, no, like, no, like nobody was interested in reading that thesis. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to keep responding to emails individually. I have to figure out a better way to put it in a format that people will actually benefit from. So I said, okay, I'll take what I put in my thesis and convert it into a book, and then people will get the book, right? And so that's literally what happened. I did my first book was based off of my master's thesis. And I launched it at the MANA conference, the very first MANA conference. I launched that book there. And then, like, publishing changed my whole world after that. From that one book, people started asking me to speak. So that launched like a speaking career. And then later on, people started asking me for help with publishing their books. So naturally, I wasn't an expert at all at that point. I had only done like, my little first book. So I was like, yo, I don't really know that much, but I can tell you what I know. And so I published my dad. He was my first book. We did a compilation of his articles that he used to write in a paper called the Muslim Observer. So we did a compilation of those. He was my first book, and then it just bloomed from there. So I think now we're up to maybe about we might have hit like our 100 now. So I feel like, yeah, I think we might be at 100 now. So it kind of just over the years just expanded. Now I have a team of editors, a team of book designers, everybody that is necessary to help someone organize a quality book. Because I don't believe in those janky self-published books where you look at it and you're like, ooh, Like, yay, I'm happy you did this, but ooh, no. This ain't cute. So we help people to produce quality books. Um, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So.
I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that you listened to the people who needed help. And that's one of the reasons I was attracted to your kind of storytelling, because I think that's what we're doing now. We're telling stories. And for me, when I look at us and our history, and right now we have this time that we're focused on our history. And I have been a part of our community all of my life. So I have seen generations of Muslims, and now we are putting to rest a lot of those stories, and they're not being preserved. They're not being told, and our children don't know that history. So that's why we thought this was important for us to have a program like this, so that we know how to collect those stories, and then how to actually document them with quality, like you're saying. So can you talk to us then about what kinds of stories should we be looking for, and what techniques should we use to gather those stories?
Well, such a beautiful question. I think in the Muslim community, especially, and especially for the African American Muslim community, our history is such a unique history and such an integral part of the broader American society. However, because we are Black people, we are people who have historically been left out of history. And we understand that that is sort of the default way of our broader nation, that they take our history and reconstruct it, or either just try to act like it didn't exist at all. And for us as Black Muslims, with our unique contributions that we've made to Islam in America, we are at risk, if we are not careful, right? We are at risk of being erased from the future history books, right? We already see from the Black perspective how they are trying to ban certain books, eliminate certain knowledge. So we understand that, right? But from the Muslim side, we also know that they try to paint all Islam and all Muslims to be from outside, right? And so for our unique contributions and our unique community, we are at risk on both sides. Like, they'll try to wipe us out and be like, oh, y'all not Muslim anyway, so we're going to talk about when the Arabs came over, we're going to talk about when the Pakistanis came over and their mosque and such, when we laid the foundation. We know that, and they know it too. But if we don't understand the importance of our work, and if we don't take the initiative to place ourselves in our rightful positions, then we can't expect anybody else to do it. Like, why would they? It's not, they don't care about us the way we care about us, right? So when you're looking at the stories, a lot of I think right now, with the ages of the pioneers that are quickly aging, right? But they established that foundation of Islam. So we have to record those stories. We have to record those stories of how they came, why they came into Islam. We have to record the stories of how they established these first temples and mosques, how they were able to pull money together when they did not have a lot of money, right? A lot of times people wonder, well, how are you able to build all of these institutions, whether they're small or large, without outside funding? We think that we have to have a lot of money. Oh, we're so poor and we don't have this. Like, no, they didn't have a lot of money, but they built strong foundations. How did they do that? How did they create inter networks with each other to have this sort of family atmosphere that we have in a lot of the different cities and such? Like, all of that is extremely important cultural knowledge. And we have to be able to build upon what they did. If we don't build upon what they did, then we end up trying to fix the same things over and over and over again, instead of learning from the past. So we must record those stories. They're coming to Islam stories, and I'm speaking specifically for the elders, right? They're coming to Islam stories. They're establishing institution stories. They're raising money stories. They're building businesses stories. They're keeping their families together stories. And when I say keeping their families together, I don't only mean like their immediate family, you know, their household, the mom and the dad and the kids or such. I mean like the intercultural, the interfaith relationships that our people have very uniquely, you know, in our community. Because the Pakistani Muslims, right, they're all Muslim typically, right, in their family. The Arabs, they're all Muslim in their family. Us here, we have a unique situation where many people came into Islam and then their family is not Muslim. So the way that we relate to the society is very different. We have a much more understanding, tolerant, inclusive way about us that comes from our family ties, right? And all of that is knowledge, and knowledge is power. So we have to recognize the power that we hold and be able to understand that we have to pass down this cultural inheritance. It's not just about money, passing down money. We have a lot of cultural knowledge, and we have to pass down that cultural inheritance so that those who are coming up, right, they can build off of what has already been done. Because it makes no sense for us to try to increase or better our communities without looking at what has already been done. So we have to be able to record those stories. And to answer the second part of your question, like how do you go about doing that? One of the things that we teach in our courses, right? We have a program that our students come to us there. We meet on a weekly basis where we're helping them write their life stories, their memoirs, their autobiographies, do anthologies, all of these different things. Like we're working on a week-to-week basis. But even if somebody doesn't want to write a full book, whether that be a short book or a large book, at least get one story down. And what I mean is like ask one question, you know, like what is something that really stands out for you over your years of living? Like what's one of your core memories that really impacted the way that you live or the way that you look at life, right? You can just record that one story on your phone, you know, on Otter.ai or one of the many transcription programs that are out there now. But even just that one story or asking one question is valuable.
Thank you so much for that. Actually, before I go into my next question, if you're just joining us, you are watching The Power of Educating Our Own. This is a show facilitated by the Clara Mohammed Schools Network. And tonight's guest is Sister Zarina El-Amin from the Legacy Keepers. And we're talking all things preserving our history. And so just to jump back into the conversation, and also for those who are viewing, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know where you're joining from. But we actually have with us Imam Nadir, who says, dear sisters, good to see Sister Zarina El-Amin.
Imam Nadir is from Detroit, Michigan, where I'm from, right? But yeah. Imam Nadir is like a G. I don't know how he has done everything that he's done. You know,
I know he's a legend.
He is a legend. And I've been trying to get him to write his book forever, right? But he has so many other things. He's probably one that we'll just have to have somebody come and sit down with him, right? And pull it out that way because he has so much that he's still doing, right? But like people like Imam Nadir who established schools, who raise monies, who are central legends, and not just in their own communities, but like nationally, like, yo, how did you do that? You know what I mean? Like we have to record those stories.
Absolutely. And Imam Nadir is absolutely a part of the Clara Mohammed Schools Network. So we feel exactly the same way about him. He is a legend. He is so impactful. And yes, please get someone to write his story because
I'm glad we're on him because I think his story is a good example of why we have to document the story. So often when I'm telling people about the Clara Muhammad School Network, I use Imam Nadir as the example. So I tell people the story of how the Clara Muhammad School in New York was shutting down, and he was the principal, and he couldn't stand to see that happen. So he said he would open a school temporarily until the Clara Muhammad School was able to reopen. And I say, y'all, it's been 3 decades since he did that. So what happened in those 3 decades? And I say, so the name of his school is not Clara Muhammad School, but it is still a Clara Muhammad School for us. And so that's a story too, to be able to tell the story of the Clara Muhammad School Network, those schools that are in the network, and the people who keep the stories alive. So he's an excellent example of why we have to document the story, and that there is a story to be documented.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so so we talked about how it is so important to be able to share and document these stories, and specifically why it is so important for us to start collecting, and with maybe even be a little bit behind the eight ball, but right, start collecting the stories of those who are the aging population in our community, right? We have some pioneers who are up there in age, and we don't want to lose those stories. But I'm curious to know, like, who can write these stories, right? And I'm asking that because sometimes people feel like you gotta, have 18 degrees, or you gotta have done, 15 years of training to be able to write a book. Tell us who's writing these stories. Maybe not necessarily the pioneer stories like you just mentioned, but all the books that you're helping people to write. Like, who's writing these stories?
Yeah. One of the biggest myths that has kept us from documenting our knowledge is the assumption that only celebrities or only founders of organizations are worthy of writing their stories. But we all know from just a family perspective, like imagine if you had a book or some papers that your great great grandmother wrote, right? Like, would you expect her to write like Toni Morrison or B. Langston Hughes or somebody? Like, no, you would just be happy that you have something that she wrote that's telling something about her life. And now you know more about your ancestors. So all of us have stories, and all of us have families, right? That should be able to pull from those stories. So the people in our classes are regular old folks, right? They're writing for their grandchildren, they're writing for their communities, they're writing for their children, and they're writing for their future grandchildren who they will never meet, right? It's like when they talk about the proverb of planting a tree, right? That you will never be able to get and reap the fruit from. So you plant that tree for the future generations. You plant that tree because you understand that other people are going to be able to benefit. And when you write your story, it may be that you don't get the understanding of who is going to, care, or why should anybody care right now. But I can tell you for a fact that later on people want it. One of the things, I was talking to a young lady the other day, her grandmother, I think, is 92, and her grandfather was 92 when he passed, and her grandmother is 94 now. And so we were talking about this work, and she said, I didn't really care about my grandfather's story before he passed. She said, it wasn't until I actually had kids. And now I wish that I knew more about him. Now I have all these questions and such, for him. So she wants to interview her grandmother, right, to write her grandmother's story. But this is one of the things that I tell some of the people, some of the elders in particular, who come into our program and think about this. Like, my kids don't really care. Don't focus just on your kids right now. They may not care today, but I can tell you, when you're gone and they wish that they had been talking to you and sitting at your feet and studying about you and all this, like, they will be so happy that you took the time and gave this gift of your book. So we have a lot of just regular individual, folks writing their own stories. Our eldest student right now is 87. and she's writing her story. And then we have some younger folks who are interviewing their grandparents and such. So it kind of goes both ways.
That's amazing.
You've got some
I'm
great
as
books out too, at their feet.
Yeah.
And then I know Sister Lanice's book.
Yeah.
I have all of them in my library
Oh,
because I love the creativity of the writing, because it's not all the same.
yay.
And so I hear you when you talk about that fear of being a writer, but we all have a story to tell. And like you said, if you record it, then, we can get the AI to transcribe it and then get it edited as needed. But I do think it's important for us to be able to, as you say, tell those stories. And as you were talking, I was writing down different kinds of stories that people can tell, because you talked about letters that people have written. Some people save their letters. What if we had just a book of just letters that
Yes.
someone has written?
Yes.
That'd be an amazing book.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
even when in the transition, I was a teenager or right at my teen years, and there's another Imam Qasim Nathari, who was also a teen. And he and I were talking about how in that transition, when the adults were trying to find their way to the Quran, there was no one talking to us as the teens. And that's a story. How did we survive that time? So those individuals are now in their late 50s and 60s. They got a story to tell. Tell that story of the transition, while the elders can also tell their story of the transition. That could be a book in itself, The Transition. And that's a big thing, because what Imam Muhammad did was amazing. But how do we get there and to be here where we are even? Go back and tell that story. So I just see all these different stories here, and even on covering. I know people who they didn't always cover, and now they're gung-ho about covering, but that's a journey. Tell that story. So I just see so many stories, and I'm saying all of this so that people can start looking at what story is in me. Don't minimalize it. It's a great story, and it may not be, as you say, important to the immediate generation, but it may be important to the next generation and the next generation and next generation. So that's my comment. I didn't really have a question.
Yeah. Well, to that point, when we talk about the difference between autobiographies and memoirs, right? Some people feel as though if they want to write their book, they have to share every bit of their life from the beginning to present, right? And what you just mentioned, as far as like all of us have a story inside of us, is that you don't have to tell everything, and you get to decide what you want to share, but you can also focus in on just one particular aspect of your life. So if you want to talk about your coming to Islam story, your book can be about that. If you want to talk about you building a business, right, your book could be about that. If you want to talk about your relationship with covering, it could be that, or when you went to Hajj or whatever, right? So people, you get to choose. And I think the big part is, for me, a lot of my work with our students and such is to relieve them of the burden of feeling like they have to be some type of perfect writers, because that's not what this is. Like, literally, I want you to write your book in your natural speaking voice. The way you speak is how I want you to write it. So I don't want you to try to slip into academic speak and try to make sure you use all this jargon and stuff that makes you sound quote unquote smart. Like, no, pretend that you're talking to one of your friends, right? Pretend that you're talking to your great granddaughter or something, and you're telling her a story. You wouldn't use all of that type of language and such. So I don't care about which topic they choose, but I want them to write something. You know what I mean? I want to write something. And I think that once we are able to compile all these books and such, like later on, just the wealth of knowledge that we'll be able to have is something that's very unprecedented. Like I went to Turkey last year, the end of last year, and we were on this delegation and we were going around. Of course, we're looking at buildings that are 1,000 years old, and we're like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, we forget here in America, because we're still such a very young country. So when you go to places and you see things that are like 1,000 years old, 1,500, you're like, wow. So I was also touring some of the publishing houses, And they have spaces where if there are any old books, people can come and bring those old books and they'll restore them, right? And they'll actually, try to fix them up and such. So I'm looking at this old society and I'm looking at the importance that they're placing on culture and the importance they're placing specifically on the written word, making sure that these books are there, that people's ideas are put down. And when I think about them, I'm like, okay, how does that apply to us? How can I apply what they're doing like to us? And that's really why this stuff is so important. And I hope that we don't minimize it. Right now, there are a lot of initiatives nationally that people are trying to do within the African American Muslim community to start doing more storytelling, doing more story preservation and such, which is beautiful, right? And I think in addition to that, we're going to have to figure out ways that all of that is going to be preserved for perpetuity. Because if we don't have any large institution that's funding it, like Turkey, the government is actually funding a lot of those publishing houses and such, right? Here, we're doing it on our own. Now, we understand that's no excuse, right? Team, no excuses. It doesn't matter what our limitations are, we get it done. But we do have to be creative and figure out how are we going to make sure that all of this knowledge that we're preserving is going to be here 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 years from now, right? We have to think that far because it is that important.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that point out, because earlier you talked about erasure, right? And for some people that may sound like a silly thing, but it's a real threat, I guess we would say, to our story, to anyone's story for whom is at risk of that, right? And that's all the more reason to find a way to share the story. You were just talking about like someone writing an autobiography versus writing a memoir. And so I'm curious to know, with these books, like, are they novels? Are they, are they 100 pages? Are they 20 pages? What do they look like, right? I just want people who are listening in or viewing to know that this is something that is so close in reach to their capability.
Yeah, they range. So some of the books are, 75 pages. Some of them go up to a couple of 100 pages. One book a sister just put out, I think hers was like 60 pages. So it's no stress. You know what I mean? Like, do what you can do, write what you want to write, and get it down, and just make sure that it is preserved. One thing I tell them is that, you don't have to write every single thing, because as I mentioned, that gets overwhelming, but also nobody's going to read, 1,800 pages. You know what I mean? Like, it's intimidating. So just writing something that is honest, that is authentic, that is based in truth and based in care for the future is really where you want to be, right? So some people are writing for society, but some people are just writing just for their own family, right? Like literally, I want my children to know more about why I made certain decisions or how my grandparents influenced my life. You know what I mean? And that is valuable in and of itself. It doesn't always have to be something that you share out with the world. So that's a very good point, actually. Like, your books don't have to be something that you share out with everybody all out there, right? They can be literally just for your family. And that is beautiful in and of itself.
Yeah.
That's a
I
very good
also,
point. I'm sorry. That's a very good point. There was a brother here in Atlanta. He was actually from New York.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came to me maybe 4 or 5 years ago and asked me just to edit the book that he was writing, it was his story.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was reading it, I'm like, oh, you have got to publish this because it will be beneficial to all of us. He said, no, I'm just doing this just for my family, just for my children and their children. And I thought that was so interesting that he was doing that, but it was really full of our history for us. And I wish he had done that for everybody. And I said, well, maybe one day it will. But I do think that's a very good point to make, to write for your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. There's what's that Mo on Netflix? I forgot the name, but it's that Muslim comedian. He has that show on Netflix, and one of the scenes, right? He's there trying to enter into Palestine, and the Israeli interrogator is asking him questions, and they're like, "Well, what's your father's name?" He says his father's name, and he was like, "Well, what's your grandfather's name?" He said his grandfather's name. And it's like, "Well, what's your great grandfather's name?" And he didn't know his great grandfather's name, right? He couldn't remember. And we already know, like, typically within families, like 2 generations, like all those little stories that you think you know right now, they're on top of your head from your grandma, like all of that gets lost if it's not written down. Like it's gone, right? So 2 generations is out. So writing for your family is extremely important. And because we're still like new young people here, I mean, us Black American, like we're young people. I think since we were cut off from that tradition of the griots who know the history and tell you about your people and such and such and such and such, like we have to reestablish our understanding of the importance of it and actually take the time to prioritize it. It doesn't have to really take a long time. Like you can do this in a weekend. You can get something down, in a weekend. You can get a couple of stories down in a couple of hours. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to take a long time. But all that, like, oh, I wish I did. I should have recorded them. I should have did this. Like that. It's time for that stuff. Is over. Like I'm done. I don't have a lot of patience for people that make a lot of excuses and da, 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 da. Like, no, like we know what we need to do. And at this point, we have the tools, we have the resources to do it. So we have to make the time because we understand the importance of it. So we don't have to spend, years. We could actually just do something that is feasible for everyone. That's my job, to make it easy for people to do it. Right. But get it done. Get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're just tuning in, you are watching The Power of Educating Our Own. This is a show facilitated by the Clara Mohammed Schools Network, and tonight's guest is Sister Zarina Elamine of the Legacy Keepers, and we've been talking about publishing. We've been talking about the importance of preserving your history through writing books, and making sure that that story is told, whether it's just for your family or it's to be shared with the larger community. And as you all were talking, I was just thinking about my own story, right? I met my dad at 25 years old. I was inspired because I had a young daughter and I saw, the interaction between her and her father. And I was just like, man, I think it's time to, find my dad. And I'm just thinking, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the story and I'm just like, yeah, that's something like worth writing, even if it was just to make sure that the story lives on beyond me. And my children are very much aware of, I mean, they've heard the story, but even, when they have children and those children have children, just to kind of hear that story of connecting back with family. And then I just lost my grandmother at 101 years old.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
like 101 is like, that's amazing. I remember at the funeral, I was just like, yeah, everybody's grandmother doesn't turn 101. And I hadn't even known them for all of my early life. And I'm just like, that's a story, right? And when I hear you talk, it makes it seem so doable, right? Like, I could literally get my phone, record myself talking, transcribe it, and now there's something there. And I think that's so important for us to understand in this conversation, that this preservation of history isn't as hard as we may make it in our minds, right? And that it is reachable and achievable. But then when I heard Sister Quran talking a little earlier, and she was talking about the transition, and she talked about herself and Imam Qasim Nathari, right? And I was just thinking, like, yeah, those stories that could be told, they help to fill in the blanks, right? Because sometimes there are blanks in our understanding of why something happened the way it happened. And then I even just think about our Clara Mohammed schools, right? I remember when I was given the responsibility of the school in Newark, New Jersey, and I was just looking for somebody to share something with me to help me on this new journey. And there were some blanks in there. And perhaps if there was a story told or something documented somewhere, it would have made the journey a little easier. The journey was what it was supposed to be, alhamdulillah, right? But our stories fill in the blanks for so many things that are going to be needed, even when we don't understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think like when we think about like niche stories, stories in particular on particular topics that may not necessarily be interesting to everybody in the world. Like for example, I'm thinking of, for some reason the subject of plumbing is coming into my mind, and bricklayers or such, right? But like say a bricklayer is writing a story about how they got into masonry, and they're telling details and such. It may not be something that someone else is interested in right away, but someone else who is in masonry, right, or is interested in like that field, like to them that thing is like golden, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God. So I think none of us should discount what we bring forward, like what our stories bring, the lessons that we've learned, the experiences that we have can all be useful for someone else. Of course, Allah designed them for our personal evolution, our personal growth as human beings. But there are other people who are going to be going through things very similar to you. And if they're able to learn from your lessons, then we can help to make it a little bit easier for them, right? And so hopefully when that happens, the evolution of us as people in general, like we're supposed to be getting smarter. We're supposed to be getting more in tune with ourselves, more connected to God, and the only way we do that is through shared knowledge. So I'm not supposed to have to recreate every lesson that my grandmama did. She did that. I'm supposed to be able to build upon what she did now at this point. But that also means that we cannot hold our lessons and our experiences with the shame, within the box of shame. Sometimes that comes up a lot when we're writing, because you have made decisions that you maybe are not so proud of, or you did some things and you're like, that was dumb. I shouldn't have done that. And there can be some shame around some of the decisions. Now, I'm not saying go tell all your sins and all of that. And I'm not saying that you have to share everything that you did in the world or such, but I'm saying that a lot of times the growth that you took as a human being, right, was a natural growth. You learned some things, you got better. Think about the autobiography of Malcolm X, right? Think about if Malcolm X did not share some of those darker moments of his life. He wouldn't be the Malcolm that we know. We wouldn't even have as much respect for him because we didn't see the journey. It would be like he was someone that was so far away from us, we couldn't relate to him. So us seeing him as Detroit Red, us like understanding how he used to go and club and do this and this and this, like we're able to see the growth of him, right? The trajectory of his life. So I think that we got to remove some of the shame and use some of our experiences as teaching tools, right, for other people to be able to learn from. And when we do that, we free ourselves as well. You really do. Like you free yourself as well. And this is real quick. I could talk about this forever, but one of the side benefits that I've learned over doing all of these classes with our students and helping people write their books is that a lot of times they may be writing for somebody else, right? They're writing for their future children, or for the people who are doing business books, like they're writing to build up their businesses and this and this. But the process of writing is something about like the process of writing and the ways that it does things to your brain, where you as an individual start to understand yourself at much deeper levels, even if that wasn't your intent. So we can have an intention in the beginning that I'm going to record this for somebody else. But the process of reviewing information and stories and people in your life, like it is like a personal development tool like no other, right? And that's a side benefit. We don't necessarily come into it thinking that that's going to happen, but now I've learned over the years and having doing all these books, like dang, like even if it reaches just one other person, like what the author themselves get out of the process is priceless.
That's beautiful. And I just want to remind our listening audience that you are listening to The Power of Educating Our Own. Our guest this evening is Sister Zarina El-Amin, and she is a publisher and an author, educator, ready to help you write your stories. So if you have a question, we would love for you to drop it in the chat so that we can get her to answer some of your questions as well, because we're having a great time learning from her.
And we have a comment from someone, HG. Love this. This is the first time I've been exposed to this kinds of conversation. My kids have already been saying there are stories about my late mother they haven't heard before. And I think that's the point that we've been making, right? Is that this preservation could be this big work, but it can also be this very intimate work that helps to tell the story of just your family, and that is valuable to the people that it touches, whether on a large scale or a very small scale. And so, yeah, thank you for that comment from someone someone HG. There we go. So, tell us about some practical things people could do to kind of like get in the spirit of, I don't know, of writing, right? So I'm sure for some people there's like this blockage to get to starting. What could people do to kind of get to that point? And then of course tell us about your training, because we want to know about that as well.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that people can do when they're trying to get started is just start with one idea. Like what's one thing that you want to share? And that could be an idea, but that could also be a story, right? So if I'm thinking about my grandmother and I'm thinking about us making this Japanese fruitcake that we used to make or whatever in the house, like me telling the story of this Japanese fruitcake tells the story, a broader story of my grandmother, and then by extension of my grandfather, and then by extension of the ways that they worked in the community and such, right? So like just one thing can start to be a ripple effect. So you start here and then it just starts to ripple out and such. But in our class, so we have a free starter training. Actually, anybody can get started for free. It's thelegacykeepers.com/live. So thelegacykeepers.com/live. And in that free training, and I made it free so that anybody who is even just interested, right, in what this could look like, whether they're writing their own story or whether they're writing the story of a loved one, they can see the process and they can know how to get started and what the steps are. But a big mistake that a lot of people make, one, is procrastinating. And I hope that if we get nothing through to our listeners today, I hope that they recognize that we are in a gift right now. So the present is a gift and none of us are promised tomorrow, right? So this idea of recording your story, if you've ever thought about it, or you have a grandma that's alive or somebody in your family that's alive and you're like, oh, I should. I'm saying do it. Like, do it now. Do it now. We can help you if you need help. If you want to just start something, like, do it now. I hope that that's one thing that people get into their mind. Because the sad thing to me, and it happens all the time, is when somebody is like, Z, I heard you talking about that stuff. I heard it, but it didn't hit me. And they're telling me after their grandma just passed. Like I had a lady the other day, right? She was interested in doing some stuff. She didn't do it. And then, saying she was going to wait till the stars aligned perfectly. She was going to come and do it then. And then her grandma passed. And she was like, now she can't go back and, record it. So she should have done it when she actually first thought about it, And I think that's, as someone who lost both parents, I think that is why I'm extremely passionate about not wasting time on it, and understanding that we can start here. You can get something down. If you want to add more stuff in later, you can do all that fancy stuff. I want to add a family tree. I want to go do some genealogical research, and I want to add that in there too. You can do all that stuff or whatever, down the line, but start and get something. Right? Start and get something. You want to pretty it up later, you're welcome to do that. But that's a big thing. So I would say come to our free class, thelegacykeepers.com/live, and then just get some ideas on ways that you can go forward and do it.
Thank you. And then, so Imam Nadir, he has me cracking up. He says, we are watching the view of the Muslim Ummah.
I love it.
And then I have Sister Ravina who says, I am more curious. Oh, she was saying, maybe I clicked the wrong one. Sorry, I didn't want to do that one. I did do this one. Sister Verena, can you talk more about the use of AI in writing or editing?
Yeah. So I know lots of people in publishing don't like AI, but I love it. I love it. Now, AI can do some things and it can't do some things. Number one, it cannot pull your memories out of your head, right? It can't go inside of you and think about how you felt when your father came to your birthday party and lifted you up in front of everybody. It can't pull those emotions and such out of you, right? But what it can do is giving it information. It can edit it very quickly. It can give you certain prompts, as well. We have a whole list of different questions that we've kind of used, and we know how to progress now with how to pull information out, and like even neurologically, it's a lot that goes into it. So I won't go into all of that right now. But AI can help you edit. It can help you clean up your work extremely quickly. Also, people who don't like to type and who don't like to write by hand, then you can use AI to dictate the book, and then have other.ai transcribe it so that you get your first rough draft, and then you can go back in and edit it, right? So there are so many different ways to get the information down, right? Interviewing, all of those things, AI is really, really, really great for that. So Otter, OTTER.ai is a great transcription tool. So you can voice dictate to Otter. And I find it to be a lot cleaner than like Google Docs has dictation in it too. Microsoft Word has dictation too. But Otter seems to be like kind of clear. And then in the program, we have a whole list of different AI tools, but Otter for sure. And then everybody knows Chat GPT is another one that you can use to kind of edit in certain sections. But you want to be careful if your AI is not trained to your voice when you're using it for editing, it will whitewash you, right? So you have to make sure that you prompt and you train your AI to keep your voice, because you don't want somebody reading something and then they meet you and they're like, is this even the same person? Because this don't sound nothing like them. Your book should be a reflection of you. So you write your book exactly the same way that you speak. You use the same type of language. You don't switch it and try to make this your book speak and this is the regular way you speak. Like literally, they should be a reflection of you, which is truth and honesty. So yeah, AI is great for that, but AI is not good for actually pulling stuff out of your head.
Right. It's not magic, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And then also she's interested in knowing more or curious about the legality of it. So like what do people have to, I guess, be concerned about or just knowledgeable of as it relates to these books?
Yeah, we have a whole module on the legal side, because sometimes when people are writing memoirs, they may have some things that happened in their life, whereas their truth, but it may look bad on someone else, right? And so they're like, can I talk about this? Even though it's my truth, can I share this? So one of the things that you do when you're writing is you have to put disclaimers, even for your own story. Like, this is based off of my recollection. This is based off of my understanding of the events that happen. Sometimes you can change certain names and such. Now, if you have a brother and you're like, oh, I'm going to call him Jake, but it's still, you only got two brothers, what I mean? Like, we're going to know who you're talking about. But you put certain disclaimers and things like that in there. Sometimes some people will reach out to people in their family and they'll tell them like, hey, I'm writing a book about my experience. You can ask them what they feel, or you can say, hey, I'm writing a book about my experience. It is what it is. I'm just letting you know. I'm informing you that I'm writing a book. So yeah, there are sometimes some things that you want to be cognizant of and do your due diligence as well. And if you need to reach out to a publishing lawyer, then do that too.
That's great. And so, as we get ready to wrap up the conversation, I do want to just have you highlight again how people can connect with your program. I'll share the link on the screen again. But yeah, just how people can connect with you. What do they need to get started in your program, what the enrollment requirements are? What are those things?
Yeah. So we ask everybody that's interested in working either on the legacy book, like memoir, autobiography, recipe book, family reunion book, any type of legacy book, to come to our first starter training. That way they get a little bit more knowledge about the way we do what we do. And then if we're a good fit, then they can either sign up for one of our programs or our done for you services. So we have a program, which is our group program, and that program helps people get their books done in 90 days. It is literally like step by step by step by step to get their book done in 90 days, right? And then we also have done for you services. So if someone wants us to interview either themselves or an elder and write the book up, right? We can ghostwrite the book. If they've already written a book and they need us to come in and polish it, do a custom cover, interior design, all of those things, we can do all of those things as well. So the group program gives accountability, and it also gives guidance so that they can write without trying to figure everything on their own. And they get weekly feedback from us, myself, my editors, as well as the other, we call them the Cousins Collective, like the other cousins in the group, right? The legacy keepers who are writing. And then on the done for you side, of course, the investment is a lot higher on the done for you side, but that's for people who are like, look, I want to get it done. I want you to come in and do it. And, and that's what we do. We come in and step in. So either way, they can start there, thelegacykeepers.com/live, or they can send us an email, Zarina, ZARINAH @bookpowerpublishing.com.
Well, you're gonna have to run that one back again.
My bad. I know. Okay. Like, you speak too fast, ZB. Slow it down. All right. So it's Zarina, ZARINAH @bookpowerpublishing.com. Yes.
We got it. We got our tech support in the background. Shout out to Imam Mujahideen Mohammed.
He's on it.
Like, wait, you did it too fast.
I know.
Beautiful. Now this has been an awesome conversation. I as we are talking, I'm thinking of, I know we've just been talking about book writing in general for the purpose of preserving history, but I'm also thinking about ways that we can incorporate the students in our schools into this sort of effort, right? In this storytelling effort.
I have an idea.
Okay, that's good. That is so good. Feel free to share if you want to, but also there are opportunities for you to share with the Clara Mohammed Schools Network so that you can share directly with the school. So we would love to have you to do that for whatever the idea is. But if you wanted to share that, that's okay too.
No, I'll just share it real quick. I mean, it's just connecting the youth, whether it be a school project, right, to the elders in in the community. So everybody pick everyone pick an elder and interview that elder and write up their story, right, like for a class project. And the community could have a day where the elders and the students all come and they, celebrate and share and such. Each school could publish all of those essays together and have a volume, in their self. And I was just talking to another sister today who wants to do something similar, but she wants to have like a scholarship, where there's a scholarship and students interview people and then the best one like wins a scholarship or such. But for the schools, I would love to see like this intergenerational connection where maybe it's like the 11th graders or everybody, pick an elder, interview them for an hour or however long or whatever, and then write that up. And the school can, compile them all into a volume and have a day where the elders, come, and it's like a nice.
I love that idea. And
Yay.
I've got this in my head. I can see it because I'm also thinking, what if we do that like during Founders Week or something? We have the living library, and that's, at every school, the young people with the elders there getting these stories. And then when we publish the books, we'll have the living library, the Atlanta
Yes.
volume, the Detroit volume, the New Jersey volume, the Virginia volume, because we got all our schools. What if we do that? Oh my goodness, I see it. And we can just
Serena, you done got her started.
Let's do it.
I love it. But can you imagine the impact? Number one, it tells the elders that we see you, we respect you, we appreciate you, we understand you have knowledge that we want to gather, right? Number two, it puts respect in the children's mind for the elders. So it makes sure that they have respect, for the elders. And three, all the other benefits that we mentioned already that come from this or whatever. But you're also healing those generational gaps and such by allowing them to do it together. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And then I also just want us to be inspired to tell the stories of our institutions as well. Because they're, I often hear of people talking about like, well, when I was in the University of Islam, it was like the most wonderful experience ever. And I'm like, that's great. I would love to know more. I hear people saying, yeah, when we had Clara Mohammed School, we had 1,500 of them. And it's just like, but at some point, for those who, as we go further out into the future, we're going further away from the history, right? And so as you said, like 2 generations out, the story is lost, that kind of thing. So I'm also encouraging us to start to tell the story of our school and our locale to make sure that is preserved. Imam Nadir is chiming in again. He says, I love it. We'll work on it, Zarina Elamine. So yeah, we're gonna cook up something for Founders Week, which is the last week in November, October, first week in November. And it goes from Imam Muhammad's birthday through,
which we share birthdays, by the way. So I'm October 30th. Yep.
Okay. Sister Clara Muhammad's birthday, and then of course we're recognizing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which is a little earlier in October, but we often recognize that time period as Founders Week. So we're gonna cook something up because Sister Quran Shakadan already heard it, so it's gonna happen.
Yay.
I saw the light flicker in her
eyes.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen, inshallah. So Look out for something to come from the schools. And then for all of you who are viewing this, however you can begin to document the history, big or small, do it for your family, do it for your community. Make sure that our story is told. There is so much. I didn't grow up Muslim, right? And so coming into this community, just hearing all of the stories, when one of the pioneers feels so inspired to just like let loose, right? Mm-hmm. It sounds so beautiful and it sounds so amazing. And I just know the story of the things that were done. We talk about having earlier today, we had a Talim here in New Jersey, Emir Rashad Abdul Rahman, and Brother Sharif was with him as well. He was talking about like all these businesses. I think you even said it, Zarina, like how did they do all of this with a little bit of money? When I think about all of this that they did, right, it's a story to be told and documented, because even though it feels so near and dear to us, so many people don't really know the story, right? And that story is very inspiring. So the more people who could be exposed to it, the better. But then it also gives us a sense of, and you talked about it being freeing for some people, but it also gives us a sense of pride and accomplishment of even being connected to just a small part of that story. I know that I feel that way anytime that I hear it. So we're promoting here on the Power of Educating Our Own historical preservation. It's important. It's impactful, and even if it's not impactful today, it's going to be impactful into the future, and it needs to be told. So tell your story. Sister Zarina, any last comments that you want to share with our viewing audience?
Yeah, I would just say thank you for having me here. But I think also this is the power of having our own stories. The fact that you can utilize your own history, your own knowledge to educate the children of the Clara Mohammed Network, right? Like that's power in and of itself. So thank you all for doing what you're doing, because for something like this to be a school project, you know what I mean? Like, how many kids in the regular schools can say, we did a school project on people in our community? You know what I mean? Like that is priceless and golden and powerful. So thank you all for doing what you're doing. I didn't realize there were so many schools, actually. I think you said 20 at the onset. So
yeah, like 19. Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of schools. So thank you all. And I think, for anyone who is interested, of course, we're here. But I'm going to say, go sit at the feet of one of the elders in your life. If you are an elder, write your story. Get somebody to help you if you need help. And for those of us who have elders in our lives, go sit at their feet and ask them questions and start preserving what we can.
We are so grateful to have you on our program, number one, and in our community and doing this work. So we're very grateful to you for the work that you're doing. And may Allah bless you immensely for this work. And may we all hear the call and answer the call. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yes, this has been the Power of Educating Our Own. This show is hosted by the Clara Mohammed Schools Network. We are a network of 19 schools, full-time, weekend or weekend, and virtual schools. And we are here every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And join us next Sunday for another conversation about historical preservation and the importance of it. We've been doing this particular series all month long in honor of African American History Month, and we invite you back here next Sunday to continue the conversation. This has been a wonderful evening with Sister Zarina El-Amin of the Legacy Keepers. Make sure you get in touch with the sister. She has shared her information with you, Zarina, at bookpowerpublishing.com. Also, hold on, they're throwing other things in here for me. Hold on. thelegacykeepers.com/live. And because my husband is the tech support in the background, he's also throwing in happy birthday, Sister Marsha. Yes, it's my birthday, guys.
Oh, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sister Marsha. Happy birthday to you. Woo! May Allah bless you.
I mean, yes. So again, the power of educating our own. We are going to be here every Sunday, inshallah, at 7 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sister Clara Mohammed, a black Muslim woman from Macon, Georgia, was an extraordinary leader and pioneer. Her contributions, especially in the development of Islamic education in America, paved the way for thousands of Muslim families to take ownership of their children's future, starting at a time when homeschooling was illegal in the United States. She eventually established a network of schools that was later named Sister Clara Mohammed Schools in her honor by her late son, Imam Warith Din Muhammad, rahimahullah. Sister Clara Mohammed helped to establish the important role women had in early Muslim American history and was an inspiration to future generations of leaders. Without her, there would not have been a nation of Islam, or the unique Sunni Muslim community that evolved from it, one that was acutely aware of the concerns and aspirations of women. May Allah have mercy on Sister Clara Mohammed.